Hey, my name is Rowan Smith and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare and conquer your upcoming hike, trek or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for, let's get into today's episode. Alright, hello guys. Today we are talking all about the Holy Grail of endurance training. And specifically, we're talking about the feeling and the type of training that you really should be chasing if you're looking at getting the optimal, in quotation marks, results from your muscular endurance training for hiking. So let's get into it. Now, I'm going to take a few steps back to start with and just talk you through what muscular endurance actually is so you know where we're at, because the word endurance does get thrown around a lot and there are a few different definitions. Now, what we're talking about when we're talking about muscular endurance is essentially the ability of your muscles to produce force again and again and again and again. And this is essentially one of the crucial aspects of fitness that you want to develop while hiking. Because obviously hiking is an endurance sport. Obviously we're doing repetitions or movements again and again and again, whether going up or down hills or whatever it may be. And there's something super relevant to your time on the trail. Now, the benefits of training muscular endurance are pretty straightforward. And I'll give you a little example. Now, let's just say you go out on a local hike. You maybe it's a 10-kilometer hike, you're cruising along. There's one particular super long hill that you got to climb up. And say this climb goes for half an hour, non-stop. It's pretty steep. First time you do it, you're hiking along on the flat, all good. You come to this hill and you're like, oof, yeah, this is pretty steep. Start hiking up it, your legs start getting burny, your quads start getting burny, your calves start getting burny. You're like, oof, you know what? It's getting a bit uncomfortable. And you keep on going, they start getting really burny, really sore, almost jelly. And you're going and you're like, mate, my legs, they are cooked. And you get to the top and your legs are shaking. And your legs have got that sickly feeling and it's just absolutely nasty. And then you're going to go downhill and each step you take, your legs are shaking, you've got that jelly legged and you're like, oh my gosh, this is not much fun. So that's the worst case scenario. We've all been there in one situation with a hiking. It's not much fun. That burn, that sickly feeling, that jelly leg feeling, it's not great. So you've done this hike and you're like, mate, that was not much fun. And you're like, you know what? I want to train. I want to get over this. So you go to the gym, or you go in your local neighborhood. For 6 weeks, you spend doing a bit of training and specifically working on muscular endurance. So you do training, you may do hill intervals with a loaded pack, you may do high repetition strength training, whatever it may be, whatever you're doing to develop it. And you get used to that burn. You teach the body to adapt that burn. You teach the body to like that burn. And then you go back and do that hike. And this time when you're going up the hill, yeah, you can feel a little bit of a burn, but it doesn't get on top of you. You notice it, but you keep on going. Your legs are just churning, up and up. It's not fatiguing you so much. And then I get to the top and you're like, you know what? That was a whole different story. I'm still feeling pretty fresh. My legs are still feeling solid. I'm feeling good. Then you do the downhills and you're like, you know what? I'm rock solid this time. Yes, again, I can see it's steep. Yes, again, it is a challenge. But my legs are behaving themselves. They're not getting away from me. And this feels really good. So that's kind of what we're looking at when it comes to muscular endurance training. We want to develop that ability for the legs to just go and be comfortable. And there are lots and lots of different ways we can kind of develop this type of thing. I said a couple of examples before. One of the typical examples of, developing muscular endurance for hiking is to do loaded hill repeats. So you go to a steep hill, a steep set of stairs, or a stairmaster, whatever it may be, put on a pack and go up and down. And you get that burn in the legs, and then you put some more weight on the next time and more weight on the next time, and it teaches the body to really get used to it. Or you can do this in the gym where you're doing sort of high repetition strength training. So, lots and lots of repetitions of squats and step ups and glute bridges and all of that, and really chasing that muscular burn. You can do it with a sled in a gym where you're pushing a sled up and down. You can do it on a stationary bike where you just crank up the resistance and just cycle on a really heavy resistance that feels like you're going through mud. And there's so many different ways of developing this, and I've talked through a load of them on this podcast. But to get the most out of any one of those sessions, there is a sort of common theme that you kind of want to be chasing. And if you are specifically chasing muscular endurance in one of your training sessions, this is a feeling you kind of want to be chasing. Essentially, when it comes to any one of these sessions, whether it's loaded hill repeats, cycle sessions, high repetition strength training, whatever it may be, the sort of holy grail that you're chasing is essentially you want to find a resistance and a pace where you really do feel that burn on the legs. You feel the legs burning and grinding away almost, kind of like that feeling when you're going up the hill in the worst case scenario. You want to find that burn, but you also want to be doing an intensity where you're not going super quick, where you're not really getting huffed and puffed, where your heart rate isn't getting super jacked up. But essentially what the limiting factor is your legs are burning and the weight is slowing you down, but you're not getting huffed and puffed. Now, it can be tricky to find this, and it does take a lot of trial and error. But getting this position, oh my gosh, it is so amazing for your muscular endurance development. So let me talk you through those scenarios that I was talking through before, and I'll sort of, paint you a little bit of a picture if it's not really sticking in. So let's go to the loaded hill repeats. Say you're doing hill repeats. You load up a pack, let's say, with 10 kilos. First time you go up the hill and you're like, yeah, that was tough, but, it wasn't that bad. So next one, you add in maybe extra 2 kilos. This time you're getting that burn in your legs. You're like, oh, yeah, it's getting pretty burny. But you're also like really pumped up and you're like, you know what, I'm going to do this quick. And you go quick and you start getting out of breath. And you're getting burny legs, but you're getting pretty huffed and puffed. Now that's a signal, if you can get to that stage where you're getting huffed and puffed, that, hey, you may want to put a little bit extra weight in. The next one, you put in another 2 kilos, so up to like 14 kilos. And this time, it's actually super heavy. You're getting that burn in the legs, but you can't go quick enough to get yourself huffed and puffed. Literally, you're loaded down so much that you can't actually physically climb that hill so quickly without really straining yourself, which you're obviously not doing, without getting super huffed and puffed. It takes trial and error. It takes a little playing around, but getting to that position, it can be very effective. The same thing with the sort of cycle session that I was describing before. If you're cycling along with a heavy resistance, but you're going pretty quick and you feel like your heart rate's building up, yeah, that'll be beneficial. But it's not that holy grail. It's not that sweet spot. What we want to do is keep on cranking up the resistance until you feel like you're going through mud. But if you're talking to a friend next to you, you could just chat away. It wouldn't be that much of an issue. And you're just grinding that out with your legs. You're chasing that burn. You're pushing through that burn, but you're just chatting away. That's the kind of perfect resistance that you want. Again, the same thing with your strength training. What you want to be doing is finding a resistance and a speed of repetitions in which you're getting that burn. And you're like, oh yeah, I can feel it. You're working through it, but you're not getting super huffed and puffed, and you can kind of sustain it for a long time. So you might be doing 20 squats, and through these 20 squats, you can still breathe, you can still chat, but you're like, oh yeah, legs are getting burny. Then you may do step-ups and you're like, yeah, I can still breathe, I can still chat, but yeah, the legs are getting burny. And it's that feeling you want to be chasing, regardless of what sort of modality you're doing to get this. That is the kind of holy grail of feelings that we want for our muscular endurance training. So I would say if you've been doing muscular endurance training in any way or shape or form with your hiking, and you've never really felt that feeling before, you may have gone close to it, but you haven't really felt it, I would strongly encourage you to just play around and just try and chase it and see what you have to do to get there. You don't have to do it all the time. It's not like something you have to do every single session or every single week or whatever it may be. But learning that feeling and learning what the body can sustain under that type of load, it is a very valuable thing for your training. And if you can string 4, 5, 6 weeks together of doing training at that type of feeling, and each week adjusting your weight to chase that feeling and heavier, more resistance or whatever it may be, that can do some really good things for your hiking. And it is something I'd recommend giving a play around. So, interesting subject today, I know. And it's something not all hikers will get, not all hikers will have to do. But if you are doing muscular endurance training, it is probably worthwhile chasing that and seeing how you go. Because if you can teach the body to chase that feeling, if you can teach the body to enjoy that feeling, teach the body to adapt to deal with that feeling, when you're actually on the trail, it can do wonders. You can get up those hills just feeling like the king of the world or the queen of the world. You can go down the hills just feeling steady as anything. It really does make a dramatic difference, and it's well worth giving a crack. So, bit of food for thought there. Now, if you listen to this and you're like, yeah, Rowan, I'm kind of there with you. You've almost made sense, but I still need a little bit extra information. I'm still not 100% sure what I should be doing or whatever it may be, which is absolutely fair enough. What I'd like you to do is come and find me in the Training for Hiking and Trekking Facebook group. Come join that group if you're not a part of it, and post up in the group and say, look, Rowan, I want you to expand on this. I want you to show me what you mean by this. I want you to give me some examples on exercises or whatever it may be. Come into that group and do that, and I'm more than happy to expand on this a little bit more, give you a little bit extra direction, because it is something worthwhile figuring out. It is something worthwhile mastering, and it can be very valuable. So if this isn't quite making sense today, come and find me in the Training for Hiking and Trekking Facebook group, and we'll dive into a little bit more. But aside from that, I really do hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Hope you got a little bit out of it, and I really hope you will take this and apply it into your training. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.